The Earth is flat and stationary, surrounded by a circle of ice that contains all the oceans, from where the sparkly vault of the firmament raises, under which rotate Sun and Moon in circular orbits very similar to each other. This model, known as the flat Earth, is way far from what the modern man is able to accept. Let's see why. Recently, Obama and Hillary Clinton have talked about flat Earth.
They must have been founding members of the Flat Earth Society.
They are basically the current protagonists of the crew, which for centuries guarantees dominion of the world to a few. They talk about it, avoiding the argument with the satire method.
Isn't flat.
Which is the treatment of mocking and discrediting everyone that questions any official versions.
Gravity.
As always, we will venture into the road that most might define wrong, the new organ 1620. Truth uncovers faster from mistakes than from confusion. The flat Earth argument exploded in 2015, quickly divulging on the web, dragging in researchers and average people. Thomas Kuhn's experiment will show you why in his most famous work, The Structure of the Scientific Revolutions. According to the philosopher, science doesn't progress because of the new discoveries and inventions, but the mutation of the paradigm happens through revolution. Like the social ones, the scientific revolutions are announced by the increasing intolerance in the existing order. In this particular case, scientists feel that the old paradigm has stopped working but can't easily let go of it and rather obstruct research. Scientists from both sides will exhibit accusations of heresy, today called conspiracy, or orthodoxy, negating. Every scientific revolution is not just incompatible, but often unmeasurable with what preceded it. And it's the unmeasurableness that explains why passing from a paradigm to another can't happen gradually, nor can it come from logic or from a neutral experience. It has to happen all at once, in a revolution. What we see, sure enough, depends both on what we look at and what the previous visual concept experience taught us to see. Our generations for centuries have the omnipresent spinning ball concept impressed as the only possibility for us to exist. Anything that is not included in this paradigm is out of any chance, out of society, of logic, of the world. Yet, the globalist elite is pleased to reveal the flat Earth model. Freemasons have an obligation to truth that they adhere throughout symbols and messages disseminated everywhere. In movies, on the web, on the Illuminati card, Underground Zero, and in the United Nations logo, have a common denominator, as common is the vector in all their logos. Every image, testimony, experiment, information, exploration and scientific hypothesis about Earth and what surrounds it is born or created here under the vector's protection at the expense of the worldwide contributor. We will complete this prefix with the explanation of Robert Simon, the NASA employee that created the last blue marble model we have available.
Where it was low, I colored it dark blue because they're low mostly in mid-oceans. And then where it's a little bit higher, it was like a little bit brighter green. There's a small problem with it because there's a very slight gap in between each orbit. It is Photoshop. It is Photoshop, but it's has to be.
Then?
There was another layer to sort of simulate the atmosphere. It's called the specular highlight. So it's the reflection of sunlight off of water. Just what I imagine it to be. Unfortunately, I'm not an astronaut. I've never been to space. But I've looked at these images over and over again, trying to sort of get the essence of it. It is Photoshop, but it's has to be. It is Photoshop, but it's has to be. It is Photoshop, but it's has to be.
So the image of Earth that we have available is reconstructed, altered, composited. In a precise word, fake. What does it take to create fake digitals when you have the best technology on hands? All it takes is a blue screen or a zero-gravity plane, and you're on. Here's what they purposely show you from the camera that is filming ex-President Bush's visit at NASA. A freshly modified image and a chromatic screen. The chromatic screen is an instrument used to substitute the color of the background with any scenarios. In CGI, computer-generated image, you can access the the ISS that isn't there. The trick consists of letting air bubbles float. Here is the game, and here's the trick. They show it to us themselves. Or we can take a walk on space. Let's take the Chinese, and we have bubbles here too, traveling undisturbed. Could they be in an exercise swimming pool? You can create a puppet out of nowhere when the insolence has no limit, or show the hidden side of the moon when the bad taste is without shame. All rigorously modified, digitalized, fake. Why not show authentic pictures? Probably because they don't exist. Till this day, it is not possible to have an authentic picture of Earth. We can just see the comparison of the sizes they show us to understand they don't even have the same reference. Supposedly, a scientist took this picture in space, but all you have to do is raise a little the luminosity and we find out the trick. A rectangular cut, this image has been added. Whichever interpretation you want to give to the vector comes in the Space Agency logos. Scientists that operate there act confirmed to each other, like scoundrels of a grotesque Masonic farce, each one with a role. Cristoforetti, Tuna Shampoo, and an evolution shows herself with a chemtrail normalizing number. Adam Stelzner plays the role of the leader on Mars Attack, where we seem to find a little of all. Bones, Grand Mars level, rats, unless that they are not, but very likely, images tinted red, photoshopped, fake. Surely not published by mistake, but voluntarily used as a stress test for our minds that in front of such an obvious fake perpetrated from our authorities, we will be increasingly ready to accept it. Cognitive dissonance. And Obama, who wants to achieve technologies to overpass the radioactive Van Allen belt and send man for the first time past the lower orbit. But wait, didn't the United States already done this mission 50 years ago? Landing on the moon with a lamp cam and foil, kept all together by tape? This material is so insolently fake. Either they are crazy creating this staged reality, or we are dumb believing it. Both. The information monopoly is well coordinated with a world of school, science, politics, and is miraculously able to insinuate contradictions so big in the perception of reality that almost no one dares to look at them. Eric Kobler says, the human being is an information system with a consequence that it can be healed through information. This is what we are trying to do now, talking about the shape of Earth. Here's everything that doesn't add up in the current spherical model. Let's try to explain it to a child that asks, why don't the people in the South Pole fall off? Because gravity keeps them to the ground, answers the school teacher. And from that day the child will want nothing more to know of this ancient intuition, original, sacred, doubt. If he tried in adult age, he would be invaded with such a quantity of formulas and mathematical equations to construct forever. The force of gravity is a theory, not reality. What passes for law of gravity can be explained with the concepts of density and buoyancy. An object denser than air will fall towards the floor. One less dense will tend to float. Let's hear what Einstein says about Nikola Tesla, one of the greatest and noble geniuses of all times.
How does it feel to be the smartest person on Earth? Well, you should ask Nikola Tesla about that.
Now let's hear what Tesla says about gravity.
The theory of relativity wraps all these errors and fallacies and clothes them in magnificent mathematical garb, which fascinates, dazzles, and makes people blind to the underlying errors. The theory is like a beggar clothed in purple, whom ignorant people take for a king. Its exponents are very brilliant men rather than scientists, but they are metaphysicists.
Researcher Anthony Pash wrote, "What has errantly labeled as gravity are actually magnetic force lines. And in fact, the electromagnetic universe as described by Tesla and occulted by the theory of gravity is what they're actually working on at CERN." But what they tell us is that the force of attraction should push us towards the nucleus of Earth. But has ever seen this nucleus? When the maximum perforation depth achieved by man is barely almost 8 miles, just the depth of Earth crust. So what are they talking about? The nucleus, for what they can show us, doesn't exist. Surely, in a subverted paradigm when the law of gravity will have to disappear, scientists will adapt to other laws, maybe to the density ones, or the electromagnetic ones, and the kids will be able to finally see the upside-down man fall off. Because the law of gravity is just the theoretic instrument to justify the impossible roundness of the terrestrial surface and hide the true physiognomy of the universe. Dear child, they told you that the Earth is spherical. Okay, can you see it? Who knows? Surely not looking at the horizon. Nor from the window of a plane. Or from an amateur high-altitude balloon. As you can see, in all these cases, Earth is evidently flat. Yeah, sure. You might see it in an altered images from NASA, but we analyze this in the prefix. They are artifact, CGI, or filmed with a deforming fish island. Here's NASA's globe, rotating with motionless clouds. This is the time-lapse of the terrestrial lights with a lot of special effects on lights. Storms, aurora borealis, ridiculous.